The way this looks and where to find stuff. Now let's make something. You have this white sheet and we have these tabs with images in them. Let's start off with this background. I have this selected already, but let me show you from the start. This is what it looks like. Make sure that this is not locked. There could be a lock on this, like this. It usually has that when you just open one image. This might give problems sometimes, so whenever it does, when you can't copy it or anything, make sure to click on this lock and you can do anything you want with it. What we're going to do is transfer this image to the white page. And we'll do that by selecting the layer. This only has one layer, so that's easy. Use Command A to select the whole image. And you'll see this dotted line, even a bit moving around the edges of the whole image. So this selects everything. You can keep that in mind as select all, because it's Command A or Control A if you're working on a PC. So next up is to use Command C or Control C on a PC to copy this image. You won't see this, it just happens, which you probably know from Word and PowerPoint and everything else. Okay, so click on your untitled page, then use Command V to paste it. Now you get this. This means that this image is way too big for a page. So let's make it a bit smaller. What we do is use Command T on your keyboard and we won't see anything, which is weird because usually you'll see the lines around here where you can scale it. The problem is that it's so big that we can't see the lines. So if you zoom out a little using Command minus or Control minus, see, here's some lines. And you can go there and scale this down. If you've ever used an old version of Photoshop, any version older than 2019, you will have to hold Shift while you are scaling this. Otherwise, it'll look like this, and you don't want that. With this new version, they changed that into not using it unless you want it to be scaled differently. So if you want it like this, which pretty much never happens because you should never do that, then hold Shift. Or if you happen to use an older version of Photoshop, you're supposed to use Shift, otherwise please just don't and it'll end up fine. So scale it so that it'll fit pretty much. Then either press Enter or use this button on the top to say that you're done. And we have our little background. Let's zoom in a little bit. Command plus. This is what we're starting with. We're not really doing anything with this yet. I don't want to put too much into one tutorial. So let's just put in some kind of a figure. I found a dog, bit of a crazy dog with huge ears here. And this one we're going to copy paste like we did the background. So use Command A and Command C to select and copy this image. Go back to your white page, which is no longer white, but is still called Untitled, and paste it by Command V. And you can scale this onto a size that you like. See, I'm really used to older versions, so I'm using Shift while I shouldn't. It's supposed to fly, so you could put it up in the air or just have it hovering above the ground a little. Because of the way its paws are, it really looks like it's standing. If you're getting a little better at this, you could always try and change those paws a bit, but we won't do that yet. This is fine. Yeah, I'll leave it at this. Enter. And we'll have our dog. This is a really easy way to do this. It's not always working like that, but we happen to have an image that had only a white background or none at all. Because I'm using PNG images, there's a lot of them that don't really have a background. So if you see a checkboard like this, that means it doesn't have a background, which is easy because we don't have to cut it. The bird is the same thing. And even the glasses don't have that. So I'm making things easy for you today. In any other way, you'll have to cut it out. We'll be cutting a little bit, just not yet. Okay, next step. We want to change these ears into wings. For that, we found this bird. Where is it? Here. And we only need the wings, so we will be cutting here, but into the image. And the nice thing is that this doesn't exist because it doesn't have a background. So here we can do this really rough around the edges. There's no reason to really be specific in that. So we could choose one of several options. I will go with either lasso or polygonal lasso tool. So if you keep your mouse on this for a while, have it clicked, then you get this choice. The lasso is freehand, and the polygon will give you little lines to work with. Let's just start with the normal lasso tool. You won't use this a lot because it's a freehand tool, but it could come in handy. So let's just get this. Make sure to keep pressing on your mouse button, otherwise you'll get this. It'll just stop and go back to the first point where you started, and that's not what we want. So if you end up with a selection like this that you don't want, use Command D and it'll disappear. So let's try again. Keep this clicked. You don't have to be too specific here. Just go widely around this wing, and then here be sure to do this nicely. You don't have to go too close to the body because we'll be leaving a bit of the start of that wing out. And stop where you started, and this will give you that moving dotted line again. Okay, that's our selection. Use Command Copy, Command C, go back to the untitled page, and we have this huge wing. So you might already have guessed. Command T to scale it down, and let's just see what size it should be. For some reason this ends up behind the dog, which is not the best thing, but it's okay for now. I'm just trying this out. I need this to be a little bit smaller, and it may have to turn a little. Okay, I'm waiting here because if you have the same problem, that's not too great. You want the wing to be in front of it, and that's where the layers panel comes in. Here you can see our white background or background image, the bird's wing and the dog. You can imagine that these are really small images, and if you have a lot of layers you won't be able to find them anymore. So it may be a very good idea to start giving some names now. So just double click on the name. This is the dog, so I'll call it dog. Wing, or right wing, that sounds wrong. Right wing, background, and that's it. This just makes it easier to find it. If you ever want to try something or you're not sure about keeping a layer in, you can just click on the eye and it'll disappear. It won't be gone, you just won't see it. So that could come in handy. For now, just grab this wing layer and just shove it up a little bit so it'll be above the dog. So you can just grab these and move them around the way you want them. So if I want the dog behind the background, I just move it there and back again. Make sure that you have the wing layer selected and go back to making this fit. The size is not too bad, it could be a little smaller. What I want you to do, let's zoom in a little bit, is make sure that it fits and that it looks right. So we might have to rotate it a little. If you go a bit from the corner with your mouse or your cursor, you can just turn the image. So just make it fit. I'm fitting it to this part of his head. And it's okay if there's a little room over there. I think a dog like this needs quite big wings to actually get up in the air. If that would ever happen. Something like that. Okay, I'll go a little quicker on the next because that is doing the exact same thing. So back to the bird, select the other wing. Command C, Command V, and Command T to scale it down. As you can see, the quality of this image is not endless. You can actually see it getting a little pixelated here, which is something you don't want. These are not the best images, but they're the best I could find for now, and they were free, which is something that you should really consider. Either pay for them or use ones that are allowed to use free, because you cannot just use someone else's pictures. This almost fits. Might have to turn it a little bit. This one seems smaller than the other one. That's weird. So I'll go a little bigger. Like that. I might have to go back to the other wing and move it down a little bit. So if you can move it, either double click or use this arrow tool so you can move it. Something like that. Okay. Let's name the other wing as well. Left wing. This is okay, looks funny, but it could be done better. I want it to look a little bit more natural, and for that we're not cutting, but we're using masks, which is a whole different thing. The thing with masks is when you get something out of the way in a mask, it's not really thrown away. When you cut it out, there's no way of going back, and when you use a mask and you want to change it back afterwards, you can just do that. So there's a lot of reason to use masks. On the other hand, sometimes it's just easier to cut things out, and sometimes you're sure that you don't need to go back. Like with these parts, putting them in this image, this is fine. But you'll find your own way in working with that. What we're doing is, let me check. I'm going to use the right wing layer first, and then at the bottom here, there are some buttons. Here you can throw layers away, you can make extra layers, just clear ones. And there is this, well, pretty much a flag, this white box with a black circle in it. Click on that while you have this layer selected, and there's an extra white box beside it. Well, you won't see anything here. The way this works is you can quite literally black things out in your image. And for that, you just use the pencil, just a regular pencil. Make sure you have black on top, which you can see down here. If this is the other way around, just use this arrow, click it, and it'll change. So make sure you have black on top, use the pencil, and I'll just show you roughly what this does. Oops. This is really soft, so it doesn't do a lot. If I click it a lot of times, you can see that you'll start seeing the dog's ear through the wing. This wasn't really the best version. You can play with anything above. This is all about this pencil. So opacity is only 40%, which should be fine. Maybe I want it at 50 or something. So we're actually like removing parts of this layer, but softly, so only halfway. And I have this airbrush button on to extra smooth everything. So let's zoom in a little bit and give this a try. If this is too big, just make this pencil smaller here. Click on it and downsize it a little. You can just click a lot or just hold your mouse and move it around. This could easily become a bit much, so maybe start out with 50 and then go back to like 20 or 30, just to give it a bit more. You can see I didn't do this very well up here. It doesn't exactly look natural, but it looks better than it does here. There's a bit of a mixture going on here. So, do the same thing with the other wing. You'll hear me clicking a lot. Okay, look at this. This is not what we want, and that's because I made a mistake. So I'll show you a bit more. Yeah. This is going nowhere really, we're just painting. And that is because, maybe you figured it out already, I forgot to make a mask. That's not helping. So, not just click on the left wing, also use this button and make sure you click on the right part of it. And then it should work. Make sure it's on black again, which it is. I'll put it on a little bit higher. And it works fine. Somehow I did something wrong here. That worked better when I started out with it. So if you have problems like this, where you're showing too much, because this is a mask, we can just go back and put a bit of the wings back in. Let me give it a bit of color from the dog. And then I'll put it up a little bit and I'll change the black into white. This is really small, you can barely see it, but you'll see a bit of black onto this white sheet in your layer on the mask. That means that you blacked out that little bit of the wing image. Now if you use white on this, you're putting it back in. So this is the reverse button. So just paint the wing back in wherever you went too far. You can paint it by moving around, and if you double click a couple times, the image becomes more visible. And the same thing with the other wing. Make sure to click on the mask, not the layer. Okay, something like this. Let me zoom out. This is our flying dog. Okay,